We're less than a week away from the return of Fortnite Chapter 1, and it might finally give us the answer to its longest-running mystery. In the shipping container yard, players broke a storage unit only to find a suitcase hidden inside. This thing was indestructible, and when they got a closer look, it showed a tiny factory making bushes. Since its discovery, this has been the longest unanswered question of Fortnite, and if it returns next season, we might finally get some answers. And that's not the only Easter egg returning, because we'll also get to see Retail Row back in its former glory. 4 years ago, you could originally find a fish on the wall, which looked like a big mouth Billy Bass from the early 2000s. If you emoted in front of it, the sign would start dancing just like the real thing. Not the only POI to hold a secret, Risky Reels has a lengthy history from impossible challenges to becoming the block. But before all of that, it had an incredible Easter egg on the sign. No one really paid attention to this thing despite the fact Epic changed it every update. They would throw fake movie titles on here and parody real films, like Cabin in the Wailing Woods or The Hills Are Haunted, and I cannot wait to see this again and find out what new parodies they come up with. I'm also excited for the return of the Three Little Pigs, and you're probably thinking, what? Well, the classic fairy tale was referenced in a POI and no one realized it. Around the OG map, small huts appeared one by one, made out of wood, brick, and eventually metal. As you know, the story goes that the Three Little Pigs built their houses in a similar fashion, but you would never consider a simple hut like this to be a reference. But first, thank you to Honkai Star Rail for sponsoring this video, which is available on mobile, PC, and now PS5. This is a turn-based space adventure game created by Hoyoverse, the makers of Genshin Impact, where you explore different worlds across the universe. It has amazing music and turn-based combat with a playstyle for everyone. There's also hundreds of treasure chests, puzzles to solve, and so many character stories to learn, like my favorite, Jingliu's. She was once a legendary hero who's a general aboard the Xianzhou and can be seen wearing this black blindfold, but it's when she removes it, her red eyes are revealed. Jingliu is a powerful ice and destruction DPS, and after removing the blindfold, she'll transform and deal a ton of damage with her enhanced ability. Not the only new 5-star, because Topaz and her pet Numby are insane. She's seemingly innocent on the surface, but really a powerful fire hunt character with ridiculous single target damage. Numby's also great for support, and I mean, come on, who wouldn't want to have an awesome looking pet like this? The 1.4 update just released, and we're back to Belobog with 2 original maps, Pillar of Creation and the Old Weapon Testing Ground. They're also kicking off the Ethereum Wars where you battle monsters, so click the top link in the description or use this code to redeem 50 Stellar Jades while you can. But now, back to the video. One of my personal favorite Easter eggs involved the food fight that dominated Chapter 1 in 2018. For multiple seasons, Der Burger and Pizza Pit were at war with each other, chasing down food vans across the map, shutting down competitor stores, and even turned into an LTM. Since then, tons of new restaurants have appeared in Fortnite, but nothing compares to the OG battle. The best food truck though was Fortnite, a van that no one paid attention to back in the day. It was an on-the-nose joke about the name of the game, and people loved it so much, it even turned into a secret POI. Over near Fatal Fields, you can find this mine in the ground, and looking at it from a top-down view, it was a fork and a knife. And a cave that lasted even longer was there since the start, except this design was a victory umbrella. Man, the details on the island were so great back then, but something that was way harder to spot is on the tactical shotgun. The very first model of this thing is apparently coming back next season, which means we'll get the return of an incredible Easter egg. Over on the digital screen, if you looked hard enough, you'll realize they were playing a game of Snake. But still not as forgotten as Lonely Lodge's resident. If you went to one of the lookout towers, you would start to find chicken feathers at the top. Pretty weird until you entered and found even more clues. Feathers, drumsticks, and a radio. When we figured out who lives here, it was the last person you'd expect to be eating chicken. That's right, Tender Defender. This guy lived at Lonely Lodge, and he's some kind of freak, I guess. Not the only birdie you could find. By heading to Lazy Links, you could pull out a club and actually play golf with your friends. Hopefully they bring this back, but if they do, anyone who didn't get the toy in Chapter 1 can't do this, so it's truly an Easter egg for veterans. But that brings me to the most famous secret of Fortnite, a guy who's been around for the longest time. Of course, I'm talking about Truckosaurus. He has a huge history of disappearing and reappearing, often with a new design, but he is nowhere to be found in 2023. Been forever since we've seen him in the game, so of course we're expecting him next season. And that's not the only Easter egg with the tradition. One of the funniest secrets of Chapter 1 involved the curse building at Tilted Towers. This place couldn't catch a break. Every time disaster struck, it was always here, causing it to be rebuilt over and over again. Once it became no sweat insurance, the curse was lifted, but now we're going back in time, so anything could happen. That still won't explain the terrifying mystery of Wailing Wood's basement. Hiding in the deepest floors of this POI, you could find a single teddy bear alone in a room. Nothing to keep him company except his own reflection in the mirror. Probably the creepiest thing you could do with a teddy bear, yet here it was. Well, actually forget that. This is the creepiest thing you could do.
Hey, what happened?
And that wasn't the first time we were haunted by an Easter egg. In the early days, some players walked up to a television only for it to show a dancing monster from Save the World. Okay, they need to bring this back. It's an iconic secret. At least we can explain the mystery behind this huge troll. One of the first times Epic ever pranked us was with a truck hanging off the map. On the trailer, you would be tempted by a chest, but the second you opened it, the loot would fall off the map, and most of the time, you would too. Pretty funny way to troll people, but they also did it in style, as this was a reference to the Italian Job. One of the most heartwarming Easter eggs in Fortnite could finally return. In 2018, a fan asked Epic for help asking their crush to prom, and surprisingly, they agreed. A few days later, you can find this note on the map asking Andrea if she would go to prom with Eric. Of course, she said yes, making this a piece of history. Pretty obscure though, unlike the most popular couple Fortnite ever produced. Chapter 1 brought two rock lovers together who were separated by the volcano. They eventually had a kid together and adopted a dog, living happily ever after on the beachfront. This saga was incredible and lasted multiple chapters, but now we're going back to where it all started, so will the story be different this time? There's also a reference which barely anyone picked up on. Around the island, some houses had a milk carton in the kitchen. Obviously you'd expect that, but this innocent looking carton was hiding a secret in plain sight. This design is inspired by a music video. It's almost a one-to-one copy of the box from Blur's Coffee and TV. They eventually turned it into a back bling and put Agent Jones as missing on the side. Not the only classic to be referenced. 18 years earlier, the movie Castaway dropped, and the devs must have loved it because they put this onto a tiny island in Lazy Lagoon. The rock spelled out SOS with a soccer ball lurking nearby, a simple but amazing homage to the help in the sand, along with Wilson, Tom Hanks' friend that's actually a ball. Speaking of movie legends, Stan Lee passed away just before the return of Fortnite X Avengers, and they had to pay tribute to him. So naturally, they added secret dialogue when you won the endgame LTM, showing you his catchphrase, Excelsior. Of course, for us to see its return, we'd have to get the Avengers endgame mode back. Now, next season does match the time frame, so it's very possible that they could add the Thanos LTM along with his infamous Infinity Gauntlet. But nothing's guaranteed. I would do anything to use this item again, especially with the snap emote that played a secret animation. An Easter egg that you only had a limited time to find was the Loot Lake Disco Ball. What originally started as a challenge that people griefed became an iconic POI to drop at. Once you entered the factories near the lake, you could find a disco ball. This would only be activated if you had 3 others to help you, but you get rewarded with a dance party, and I need this back next season. Now, wouldn't be OG secrets unless I brought up gnomes. Of course, they were everywhere. You could probably make an entire video just on these guys, but I'm gonna highlight one location that puzzled everyone. There's a random hut on the map guarded by gnomes, and if you broke in, you'd find them surrounding loot, probably the most unsettling chest I've ever opened. But there's a house with even cooler secrets, and it was introduced with Paradise Palms. It's a POI that's almost certainly coming next season, which brought John Wick's mansion to the game. It was an exact recreation from the movies. You can even pickaxe the ground to reveal a chest stash, and if this isn't included, a huge opportunity will have been missed. Now, everyone's asking if planes are going to return next season, and honestly, the chances are high. They're a big part of Season 7, which is already confirmed to be making an appearance. Hopefully they include the original Easter egg where you can hear Ride of the Valkyries while flying. Well, that's not the only controversial part of Season 7. There was an item that was even more hated. Of course, I'm talking about the Infinity Blade. The first original mythic in Fortnite history, but also a reference to Epic's older game. One of the biggest questions is whether they're brave enough to add it back. And considering it'll only last a week, I think they might. Now, there's one thing Chapter 1 is gonna do. It's bringing back all the players who quit over the years. That means everyone at school is gonna be grinding this thing just like we did in 2018. So maybe it's time to bring back Mr. Hillman's solid advice. Back in the day, this message just for Hillman's class was on the loading screen, making him one of the coolest teachers of the year. Hopefully they revive his message. And there's an Easter egg that puzzles players to this day. Shifty Shafts is known as a beloved POI that mostly consisted of, well, mine shafts. Kinda all there was to it, except for one day when the secret streamer room appeared. Suddenly an area is filled with a green screen, a whole desk setup, and cameras. It was extremely random, with some people thinking this was referencing a streamer or a talk show host. We never did find out, and that's why we demand answers in Season 5. Some references are more obvious than others, like the oldest Easter egg in Fortnite. Over time, you've been able to find countless outhouses with a moon symbol on the door. That's right, it's the bathroom from Shrek. It's been in the game every single year except for 2023, so naturally, you'd expect them to bring it back. Although some players really want to find the secret ice cream truck. This thing was spread all over the map in the early days of Fortnite, with people confused about its insane amount of health. You had to deal 100,000 damage to find what was buried underneath it, and at Pleasant Park, it led to nothing. Total prank, but at least the one at Dusty Divot gave you something, and this time around, Epic could make it even better. Something that put a smile on our face was whenever we dropped at these structures. To date, they are some of the only POIs to be made entirely of builds, and you can find animals like a fox, a crab, even a llama. You could edit these too, so defending yourself was extremely fun. People are desperate to see these guys again, and they also want to drop at the soccer stadium, one of the most underrated landing spots in all of Chapter 1. This was an unnamed location on the map which had a swimming pool, plenty of loot, and of course, a secret mini game. You could actually play soccer with your friends or enemies, and it would even keep count of the score. Sadly, this is never returned, so Epic could impress everyone by bringing it back. Now, there's one Easter egg that is more popular than all of them combined: Choppadoodle's grave. We all know the story behind this, and it's almost certain that Muselk's iconic tombstone will make a comeback next season. We can finally pay our respects to the failed rescue mission once again. Hope you guys are excited as I am. It's been Tommy. Make sure to keep it here on Top 5 Gaming.